allegedly, the Ford Mustang Mach-E, both the 300-mile model and the 280-mile model, allegedly, will not meet their EPA ratings. Ford says, "Nah, we will." So they are supposed to achieve 300 miles and 270 miles, and somebody was digging through the government documentation and saw that they achieved 288 miles and 250 miles. So under 20 miles below what they were, or 20 miles below what they were supposed to achieve on the low end, and almost 20 miles on the high end.
But they're saying that there's more testing to go, and they'll definitely achieve the marker that they've put forward. Like that's what they've said publicly, right?
This is what they said before we found out they were taping up door seams and putting moon disc rims on the cars.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm trying to read now. So I remember from the Chicago Auto Show there were like 9 different versions of the Mach-E or something. I forgot. It's like the California, the Highway 1 or whatever the hell they were calling it. What
right.
Do you know? Is that what it was?
I don't know which
long range
two
ones?
they were, but they were those 2 ranges. I think it might have been 4 different models with 2 different batteries and 2 different trims of each of those. So,
but the battery packs, there's just basically 2 battery packs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So does this trickle down then?
One more?
Does this mean throughout all the models? Do we know whether this, like, it's not going to hit it? Is this indicative to the Mach-E? Is there any speculation?
Yeah, just the Mach-E, and so Ford's making it seem like somebody was in there digging out early data that's not what the final product's going to match. I don't know why they would pay to do the test twice, and this other person is like, hey, every other manufacturer does it this way, and once it's registered, this is what you're going to get once they run the formula. Because the numbers that they pulled out were the unadjusted formulas. So they got like 300 miles and 290 or something.
Yeah.
But then you got to adjust for the tests that they don't run on the EVs that they do run on the gas cars.
I'd have to say that Ford needs to beware if they don't come up with the numbers that they originally said. People are going to do comparisons when they get the real numbers, and that could be the downfall of the Mach-E if they are not what they said they were going to be, if they're drastically under.
Yep. So for the all-wheel drive extended range Mach-E, the unadjusted city range is 371.5, and the combined range would be 356.8, but again, unadjusted.
I'm going to disagree with Mark. I'm sorry, Casey.
Okay.
You don't think that people are going to compare EVs based on
which people?
On who people that are buying it?
No.
Yeah, if you can look at the Ford or the Chevy.
I think the vast majority of Mach-E buyers want to buy a Ford, want to buy a Mustang, and don't give a rat's ass if it gets 20% less than another car, which they don't want to buy.
This is true.
You don't think there's hypermilers? There's not hypermilers going out there and trying to squeeze every mile.
A Mustang, Tony. Mustang.
Well, maybe they had a Mustang when they were a kid.
You can't say them in the same sentence, buddy.
Maybe they had a Mustang when they were a kid, and now they're going to hypermile, and they would like to also be able to lay their foot down on the lightning pedal, like this guy. And
I'm not saying Mark's wrong. I just disagree. I think most of those
sides.
We're way into this. We follow this stuff, man. We write these things down. We commit it to memory. All of us knows most car buyers.
Well, my dad really likes the idea of the Mustang, and he knew a lot of the specs already before I even talked to him about it. And I mean, I would just think that at this point, if I were Ford and it's on the edge, I would throw in 3 more battery cells and make the numbers than come out and not make my heads. Yeah, this is true, though. Yeah, this is true.
But your mileage may vary. People are very much used to getting 20% lower MPG than they have been promised. So if the range isn't quite what the early press said it would be, the EPA numbers are what is going to eventually be advertised because that's all they can legally do. So it will meet that number.
Yeah, none of my Teslas have met EPA unless I sat down and made my best effort to hypermile them.
Oh wow, I get mine easily. That's weird.
Well, I mean, I'm driving the P series, and
Which proves everybody's different.
yeah,
Yeah. I don't know, but I mean, to Russell's point, is it possible that
It's
it's
on my head.
some like, is range going to become like this generation's version of horsepower, where people sit around and they compare the numbers, and if you buy a 350 and you only get 340, then are people going to be upset? You know, whether you're talking horsepower or range.
now if it
Or,
says 350 on the dash and they can only go 200, they will raise hell.
Sure.
But if it says 350 on the sticker and they get 310, I don't know that most average Americans will say anything, or Canadians.
but that then that raises the question that if it says 350 and you get 320, let's say 325, okay, that might be good for the first year.
And
After
it drops.
3 years, are we going to be looking at 300? Are we going to be looking at 290? And now that initial disparagement that you're willing to write off, now you have a 5-year-old car that doesn't come anywhere near what EPA was. And you're
Bring out the
looking at
pitchforks.
resale, you're looking at what, yeah, see, now
Mhm.
we start looking at what they're promising and what gets delivered.
We do have a an analog for this. What happened with the Nissan Leaf?
Yeah, that's just what I was thinking. My 2011 Nissan Leaf only started out with, I don't know, 75 miles of range, and that slowly deteriorated. And their degradation was certainly worse than I wanted it to be. And at the end of its life, it was down to something like 46 miles, which is not a lot. But if you know that and you use it appropriately, that's fine. But if you bought it because it said 70 something and you needed at least 65 of that, and now it's down to 50, that's not going to work. So yeah, how much the battery degradation happens over as it ages is definitely something to watch for.
Yeah, I mean, if you only
And
lose
that's,
like 10
yeah,
miles over the life, that's not so bad, not so big a deal.
right.
But if you lose half of it in 3 years,
No, I'm
Nobody's
sorry,
saying-
Mark. Yeah.
Nobody's saying Ford's going to run into a degradation issue. We don't know. It's
they haven't yet. No.
and of course, Nissan had the whole thing where they weren't liquid cooled and they got overbaked, and there were some reasons for that. But if Ford only loses a little bit, then with the bigger range and most EVs are coming out with as a starting amount, it's going to work fine for the vast majority of people. I'm just concerned that Ford may have an uphill battle if they come out with a vehicle that misses the numbers they said they were going to have, and I think people will compare, because it's not like the Ford is $15,000 cheaper than other EVs. No, it's right up there in price. So you're paying the same dollars. People should be comparing apples to apples, at least for range and the money that they're spending.
If they're doing the stretch to get the Ford Mustang E, and they could have got the gas one, and then now they needed all that range because this is their first EV. They skipped the hybrid, and now they need this. They need the 350 to get to work, and they can only do 320, and they got to push it 20 miles.
350 miles to get to work.
Yeah.
I mean,
One of those crazy people who commutes to Manhattan.
What, 5 hours? What?
Yeah.
So
anyway, you get to work. You get to your 20 miles from work. You got to push it, and then you plug it in, and now you're off the car. I don't imagine it'll be too many people, but I do imagine that.
I get it. Alex Roy commutes from Western PA to New York City in a Model 3.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
But that's the vast majority. And where Mark and I differ is, if you want a Ford and you want an electric Ford, guess what you're going to buy? And it doesn't matter whether the Chevy that you would never buy is more efficient or has more range or is cheaper. You want a Ford, and brand loyalty is the number one reason why consumers buy vehicles.
Right. Yeah, that's what Tony and I were talking about when I called him a well-trained consumer, because he buys Toyotas and he threw it back at me because I buy Teslas. Yeah, we're trained.
I'm driving a second generation Prius. I mean, not coming from any higher moral ground. I'm just pointing out that Mark may be right. I may be right. Time will tell. It will be interesting to see if the sort of meta discussion that we're having, and I'm not saying it's unimportant, it is, but it's really inside baseball, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.